On this Sunday night, killed while walking home. The global outcry after a British woman is murdered and a police officer is charged with her death. Ontario launches its vaccination booking system.
Why weren't these bookings done a few weeks ago?
Will it crash like other provincial rollouts? The frontline workers left behind.
If we want to protect the rest of the province, we protect our essential workers.
The calls to vaccinate employees at big businesses and saying goodbye. How the pandemic has made losing a loved one even more painful.
Global National with Robin Gill.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin tonight in the United Kingdom where pressure is mounting on London's police commissioner to resign. Her officers are being criticized for the way they treated people attending a vigil for Sarah Everard. The 33-year-old was kidnapped and killed earlier this month. The man accused of the crime is a Metropolitan police officer. She was just walking home, and those words have become a battle cry for many women who are sharing their own stories. As Ross Lord explains, Everard's death has sparked anger across the UK and here in Canada.
At a time of growing questions about policing in the Western world, this is a public relations disaster. Protesters in London outraged not only that a police officer allegedly killed Sarah Everard as she was walking home at night, but also at police aggression against people mourning her death. Police removed women from the vigil honoring Everard, leading some away in handcuffs while being accused of betrayal. Online, hashtags like "she was just walking home" are resonating around the world, with women who felt fear all of their lives about walking alone at night.
The simple, universal act of walking somewhere, and home especially, to go hopefully to a safe environment, and that you can be murdered simply because you're female, for no other reason.
Danielle Jack from BC's Mamalikala First Nation led a march this weekend honoring missing and murdered Indigenous women. She's had her own horrific experiences.
When I was 12, I was abducted, brutally raped and beaten and stripped naked and left in a ditch.
In the UK, advocates note the number of women murdered by men is at an all-time high. Compounding the despair is the fact Everard's alleged killer is Metropolitan Police Constable Wayne Cousins, whose main job was patrolling diplomatic buildings. The way police handled the vigil is being criticized, some calling it an unthinkable insult.
I think that the police got it wrong at every single turn.
Police said they were simply enforcing COVID rules and were placed in this position because of the overriding need to protect people's safety.
Quite rightly, as far as I can see, my team felt this is now an unlawful gathering, which poses a considerable risk to people's health, according to the regulations. A really invidious position for my officers to find themselves in.
But London's mayor, Sadiq Khan, says police assured him the vigil would be managed sensitively. After meeting with police leaders, Khan said, "I am not satisfied with the explanation they have provided." Khan is calling for a full, independent investigation. The UK's Home Secretary is asking the force for a full report on what happened. Ross Lord, Global News.
Outrage is growing over a cartoon published by French satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo. It's a depiction of the Queen kneeling on the neck of the Duchess of Sussex, echoing the killing of George Floyd. And a warning, the image may be offensive. The cartoon published yesterday is titled "Why Meghan Quit Buckingham." Meghan is then drawn to say, "Because I couldn't breathe anymore." The cover image comes days after Meghan and her husband, Prince Harry, made allegations of racism within the royal family in an interview with Oprah Winfrey. The CEO of the UK's race equality think tank tweeted the cartoon is wrong on every level. This doesn't push boundaries, make anyone laugh, or challenge racism. It demeans the issues and causes offense across the board. Now to the vaccination campaign. Thousands of people in Ontario will soon be able to roll up their sleeves. The province is launching its booking system for COVID-19 vaccines tomorrow, with the capacity to book at least 800,000 appointments. But as Morganne Campbell reports, there are worries the demand will be too high for the system to handle.
As Ontario expands its list of who can get and give a COVID-19 shot, a new tool has been added to the vaccine rollout.
We are ready. We have the infrastructure. We have the people.
The province is launching online and call center booking systems, which will allow seniors over the age of 80 to book COVID-19 vaccinations. That portal is live Monday morning and will only accept those born in 1941 or earlier. Retired General Rick Hillier, who heads up the province's vaccine program, says the system has been stress tested to handle a high volume.
And since Friday, we've booked more than 15,000 appointments for Toronto Public Health using the online booking system. It was done without a flaw.
The same can't be said for other provinces such as Alberta and British Columbia. Both experienced system-wide crashes due to the number of people trying to book online and over the phone. Randy Connolly is a professor of mathematics and computing at Mount Royal University in Calgary.
As long as they're planning for that kind of load, they should be able to manage it. It doesn't mean there's not going to be delays.
Dr. Kerry Bowman says he is concerned some people trying to book appointments may fall through the cracks because of barriers ingrained in the system.
I purposely repeat, not everyone has access to an advocate. So that will be a big one. Language. And then people that, simply don't even have phones.
The province says it hopes to open the online portal to those 75 and older by at least the beginning of April. Meanwhile, the Ford government has stressed that it does need the federal government to provide additional vaccines to Ontario. Morganne Campbell, Global News, Toronto.
Frontline workers are hoping the vaccination campaign will move them up. Outbreaks at busy factories and warehouses have been a common occurrence during the pandemic. As Catherine Ward reports, there are calls to protect those employees with the goal of protecting the rest of the province.
For every package, food delivery and purchase made, frontline workers in warehouses, trucks and factories are the driving force keeping these industries on track.
This is certainly a place where, prioritizing vaccination would have a huge role to play in changing the trajectory and really bringing down the spread of the disease.
Infectious diseases physician Dr. Suman Chakrabarti says vaccinating frontline workers in Ontario could be a game changer, especially in the regions hardest hit.
It's important for us to, really put resources in to protect them because this is one unfortunate area that's invisible but has been impacted very hard by COVID, much more than the rest of the population.
Amazon was ordered by public health officials to shut down a facility in Brampton on Friday after 240 positive cases were reported in recent weeks. At least 10 of those involved variants. Roughly 5,000 workers have been instructed to quarantine and self-isolate until March 27th. Mayor Patrick Brown says this is an example of how vaccines could break the cycle of transmission that has been happening in his city.
We've had outbreaks disproportionately amongst our essential workers in Peel region and in Toronto. And if we want to protect the rest of the province, we protect our essential workers.
When asked if the province would prioritize the group, retired General Rick Hillier said the rollout remains unchanged.
So the plan for them is that they will be included in either mass vaccination clinics or else in pharmacy channels as they roll through, or in some of the public health units.
However, Hillier did suggest there could be opportunities for big businesses to help with vaccine distribution at some point in the future.
Perhaps many private companies volunteering to set up a mass vaccination clinic in their own factories, using their own occupational health personnel to do the vaccine and look after their workers when their turn comes.
As for Amazon, the company has made it clear it plans to appeal the shutdown order, given it does not believe the data supports a full closure. The region's medical officer of health says vaccines for frontline workers will still largely depend on supply.
Certainly another logical group for consideration once we've ticked off the tiers of those who are really at the highest risk of mortal and severe outcomes at this time.
Catherine Ward, Global News, Toronto.
Ontario is reporting more than 1,700 cases of COVID-19 today. And tomorrow, the province is easing restrictions for religious services, weddings, and funerals. The capacity limits will change for regions in the province's gray lockdown zones. Indoor gatherings of up to 15% total capacity will be permitted. 50 people will be allowed to gather outdoors. Indoor public events and social gatherings are still banned. Alberta's first urban Indigenous vaccination clinic opens tomorrow. The clinic is located in Calgary's Aboriginal Friendship Centre. Many Indigenous people in the city already turn to it for other health and community needs. This will provide a culturally appropriate space for Indigenous seniors living in the Calgary area to get vaccinated without having to travel to reserves. Ireland has become the latest country to temporarily suspend the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. Health officials in that country say it's being made out of an abundance of caution. Denmark, Iceland, and Norway suspended the vaccine after reports of serious blood clots. Norway's Medicines Agency has detected 4 cases of blood clots in adults after receiving the AstraZeneca vaccine. On Friday, the World Health Organization said there's no indication that they were caused by the vaccine. Turning now to the We Charity controversy. The organization's founders, brothers Craig and Mark Kielburger, are set to appear before the House of Commons Ethics Committee. As David Aiken reports, opposition MPs say they still don't have a complete picture of the ties between We and the Prime Minister's family.
Virtually very limited engagement with the federal government seeking funds.
The We Charity controversy is almost as old as the pandemic itself. Last spring, when the Trudeau government wanted to hand out $900 million worth of grants to help students, it turned to We, an organization which had long been a favorite of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and members of his family, who would often appear at the rock concert-like events staged by charity founders Craig and Mark Kielburger. But then it emerged that the Trudeau government had tapped the We Charity without a competitive tendering process, that We, then in financial trouble itself, would be paid millions to run the program, and that Trudeau's wife, mother, and brother had all been paid hundreds of thousands of dollars by We over the years to appear at We events. The Trudeau government dropped We from running the student grant program, but the opposition has been howling about Liberal self-dealing and corruption ever since.
The deep connections that the Kielburgers had to Justin Trudeau, to his family, and how they were able to walk in, basically, they had the all-access pass, and government shouldn't be operating that way.
What we see here is an example of the poor judgment that the Prime Minister has exercised.
At first, the Kielburgers rejected the summons by the Commons Ethics Committee, but after an extraordinary exchange of demands and counter-demands, the brothers, accompanied by their lawyer, agreed to testify.
So we have a duty to scrutinize, the concerning allegations about the We organization misleading donors and volunteers and students and charitable groups. This goes back to that piece about the vetting, and did the Prime Minister, did members of his cabinet, did PCO know about these allegations?
This is a charity. We've had to issue 4 legal summons in order to get the key leaders in this charity that works in all our schools to testify. I want to know what is with that.
David Aiken, Global News, Ottawa.
Coming up, winter isn't done just yet, delivering a crippling storm to the U.S. And boxing legend Marvelous Marvin dies suddenly. Just when we thought it was getting warmer, Mother Nature had something else in mind. A massive and very late winter wallop is hitting the U.S. tonight. Southern California has been blanketed in snow, while Texas is being hit with tornadoes. Tonight, Jennifer Johnson looks at all the chaos in what many hope will be winter's last wild ride.
Oh man,
It has been a rocky weekend for the Rocky Mountain states.
not good.
As some of the heaviest snow in years continues to fall. Blizzard conditions in Wyoming. In Utah, people were trapped in their cars for hours after massive multi-vehicle accidents. Thousands of flights have been canceled or delayed at Denver's airport.
They had a couple flights canceled.
The slow-moving storm caused Colorado's governor to activate the National Guard while urging people to stay put.
You don't want to have to be one of those that's searched for and rescued. Better to be safe at home.
In Colorado's backcountry, officials posted several avalanche warnings after an already deadly season where at least 11 people died.
It's once in a lifetime little ski trip, and we're going to make the best of it, even though you can't control Mother Nature.
Even normally sunny Southern California has been hit by the storm, mudslides and snow. In San Diego County, this family enjoyed the white stuff, seeing it for the first time.
Look, I caught lots of snowflakes.
Feels great, after work of a week of working at home.
The snow also amazed visitors in southern Nevada.
This was a surprise. This was not
it was not our plan, but yeah.
We love it. What a treat.
And they're liking it.
It's the first time they've had snow.
In Texas, several tornadoes ripped across the panhandle, knocking out power and destroying homes.
Holy crap, look at that!
We got an alert on our phone, so we took off. Went back into the canyons, took my kids and my wife, and then we came back about 45 minutes later, and it looked like the whole RV park was hit by the tornado.
That park, filled with people trying to celebrate spring break, was destroyed as Mother Nature exits winter in a ferocious way. Jennifer Johnson, Global News, Washington.
American boxing legend Marvin Hagler has died at the age of 66. According to a Facebook post by his wife, Hagler unexpectedly passed away in his New Hampshire home on Saturday. His family hasn't said what caused his death. Hagler was one of the biggest names during boxing's golden era. From 1976, he went undefeated for over 10 years and reigned as the undisputed middleweight champion from 1980 until his final match in 1987 against Sugar Ray Leonard. In 1983, Hagler was inducted into both the International and World Boxing Hall of Fame. After retiring, he pursued a small career in acting and boxing commentary. Still ahead, as the fight for democracy continues, is Myanmar edging close to revolution?
You're watching Global National.
Supporters of Aung San Suu Kyi remain defiant, returning to the streets of Myanmar today, hours after security forces launched another lethal crackdown, one of the deadliest days since the military seized power. The acting leader of Suu Kyi's Democratic Party, who remains in hiding, promised a revolution to end the February coup. During his first public address given from a secret location, he appealed for people to join the uprising to restore democracy. The Pope made another appeal for peace in Syria during his traditional Sunday blessing from St. Peter's Square. Francis offered prayers for the country on the 10th anniversary of its civil war. It is the 21st century's deadliest conflict. The pontiff called for a new commitment from the international community to end the violence and urged all sides involved in the fighting to show signs of good, to give the exhausted population a glimmer of hope. Chile is now one of the top countries in the world when it comes to its COVID-19 vaccination program. More than 25% of the population has received at least one shot. The country of 19 million people is currently the vaccine champion of Latin America. The situation is far better than at the start of the pandemic, when the Chilean government was criticized for its inability to trace and isolate infected people. Up next, a dying woman's final wish and how she had to say goodbye to her family. COVID-19 has affected just about every part of our lives, and it can have a profound effect on death. Because of pandemic restrictions, a palliative care home in Quebec was forced to wheel a patient out into the cold. The reason? So she could see her loved ones one last time. Mike Armstrong has the heart-wrenching moment her family wants you to see.
It was clear what this was, a final goodbye. Justine Bouchard, the woman on that bed, had one last wish, to see her family together. The COVID-19 rules at the Palliative Care Center in Alma, Quebec, don't allow more than 10 visitors. Bouchard has more than 10 brothers and sisters. Add to that her 2 children and 6 grandchildren. Her son says having to choose who in the family could see her and who couldn't didn't work. It wasn't something they could do. Bouchal spent 2 months in hospital. She went in on Christmas Day. The rules there were even tighter. She was only allowed one visitor, her husband. Now, there was frustration with the rules at the palliative care home, but there was also appreciation. It was Bouchal who told her sister-in-law and best friend to invite our colleagues at the French network TVA. She says soon she won't be around, but asks people to try and make efforts like this one to help people. Since the crisis started, there have been visits through windows and goodbyes over phones and iPads, whether it was COVID-19 or something else. Staffs have tried to be creative, but it's been a challenge. Bouchal's family says there should have been a way to hold this visit inside. The home's director says they would like to operate the way they did pre-COVID, but that they have to worry about other patients as well. They do what they can. Well, as she was being wheeled back inside, Bouchal told her best friend it was the last time she'd see her family. She was right. Justine Bouchal died just hours after this visit. Mike Armstrong, Global News.
Tough story to tell. And that is Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Robin Gill. Tonight, your Canada is this stunning sunrise in Campbell River, BC. We would love to see your corner of the country, so please keep sending your photos to viewers@globalnational.com. Thank you for watching. Donna Friesen will be back at the anchor desk tomorrow, and I'll see you Wednesday. Good night.